Hi, so this video is going to be about vertical and horizontal lines. So we've looked at the equations of lines before, but vertical and horizontal are set aside for a specific reason because they're a little bit special. And if you think back to our slope day, you might remember that vertical and horizontal lines were set apart there as well because they were special. So the reason why vertical and horizontal lines in terms of graphing get their own section is because they have very specific and unique slopes. So we're going to try to sort of think our way through why they might be special and what their equations might look like, and then we'll sort of get to the hard and fast rule. So again, special cases, vertical and horizontal lines, they don't come up a lot, but you need to know how to navigate them when and if they do. So let's talk about horizontal lines first. So thinking back to our slope day, what is the slope of a horizontal line? Well, it is 0, because remember our little skier who's having 0 fun on the horizontal ski slope. So if the equation of a line is y equals mx plus c, where m is the slope and c is the y-intercept, what happens when we put a 0 in there for slope? Well, the answer is when you multiply anything by 0, it disappears. So this part is gone. So the equation of a horizontal line is just y equals c, c being the y-intercept. And that makes sense when you think about it, because if you think about a horizontal line graphed here, so there's our set of axes. If you think about a horizontal line, let's just put it anywhere at all, there, and you think about the coordinates of the points that exist on this line. So this point here would be, what would that be? -3, 2. And then this point here would be -1, 2. And then this point over here would be 1, 2. And then this point over here would be 3, 2. What do you notice about all of them? Hopefully you've noticed that they all have the same y coordinate. So when it comes to the equation of a horizontal line, the x coordinate is irrelevant. X can be whatever it wants to be, but y will always be exactly the same, which is whatever the y-intercept is. So that point there would be 0, 2. So whatever the y-intercept is, that's what every other y value in the equation is. So that's why the equation of a horizontal line can be reduced to y equals c. Now where students get mixed up is that the y is the vertical, so they always want to make y equals a vertical line, but it's not. The x is irrelevant with a horizontal line. It is only the y coordinate that matters. So reduce it down to this hard and fast rule. All horizontal lines have the equation y equals c because the gradient of a horizontal line is 0. So if you were asked, for example, to graph y equals -3, that looks like a G, but let's just imagine it's not, it's a Y. So if you were asked to graph y equals -3, you need to be able to recognize that when there's no x in the equation, that is going to be a horizontal line. You need to get to the point where you can recognize that. So then, away we go, draw our set of axes with a ruler, please. And then the y-intercept is -3, and for that matter, so is every other point on that graph. So y-intercept crosses the y-axis at -3, and then every other point on the graph has a y-coordinate of -3. We've already recognized that it's a horizontal line, so you can just go ahead and with a ruler, graph that out. Arrows on both ends to reflect that it's a line, and away you go. So horizontal lines, y equals c is the equation for them. And c being whatever the y-intercept is, whatever the y-coordinate of every single point there is. So vertical lines are also special cases, but they're a little bit different. So if you think back to what is the slope of a vertical line, well, the slope of a vertical line is undefined. Remember our little skier who's having an undefined amount of fun on the vertical slope, unsure if he will live or die. So that's a little bit more complicated to put into an equation, y equals mx plus c. How do you plug in undefined where m is? That doesn't make sense. So let's think about this one in a different way. So if all of the y coordinates of a horizontal line were all the same, then what can be said about a vertical line? So if we draw ourselves a vertical line and start indicating some points on here, well, what are the coordinates of that point? Well, that's 3, 3. And what about this one? Well, that's 3, 1. And what about this one? That's 3, negative 1. Are you noticing a pattern yet? 3, negative 3. Hopefully you've noticed that the only thing that matters here is the x-coordinate. The x-coordinate is the same all the way along. So for a vertical line, the equation is x equals a. So a doesn't really represent anything other than another variable. In this case, it also represents the x-intercept. But it doesn't really have that meaning anywhere else, so don't pay too much attention to that. Because with a vertical line, the only thing that matters is the x-coordinate. The y-coordinate can be whatever it wants to be, but the x will be consistently the same number. So if you want to boil that down into a bit of a hard and fast rule here, all vertical lines have the equation in the form x equals a, where x is something and it's the same something for all of the points that exist on that line. And the gradient of a vertical line is undefined. We've seen that already. So let's imagine you were asked to graph x equals negative 3. Okay, so you need to get to the point where you can recognize that is a vertical line. You need to be able to recognize that. Then you're going to draw yourself a set of axes with a ruler, of course, and then you're going to plot your points. So our x value is negative 3, so that means it's crossing the x-axis at negative 3. And for that matter, so is every other point that exists on that line because it is vertical. So again, with a ruler, draw yourself a line, arrows on both ends to represent that it goes on forever. Ta-da, you've got yourself a line. So to recap, vertical and horizontal lines are special. Horizontal lines have a slope of 0 and have an equation in the form y equals c. Y by itself, single number on the other side. Vertical lines have an undefined slope and have an equation in the form x equals a, x by itself on one side of the equation, single number on the other side. Thanks so much for watching.